It's Halloween again. Yeah. Seems fitting that this will be my last night in this world. I feel it coming. The bitter hand of the Reaper reaching out for me. The prize that slipped through its fingers over 60 years ago. Damn, that sounds a bit dramatic, don't it? It was the late night of October 31st, Halloween, 1964. That's when the carnival come to town. The night I was sure I was gonna die at the tender age of 12. Well, I didn't actually have a name, from what I seen when I come up on the gate. The faded sign just reading Carnival, nothing more. I still knew what it was. I'd heard of it by then, anyways. It was known as the Night Carnival, though after that night, some folks called it the Devil's Carnival. Others named it the Dark Circus. Hell, there were those that just called it straight evil, not even bothering to give it a name. But when it comes to town, well, it has a ways of drawing folks in. According to the legends, or more like the rumors and folklore I've picked up over the years, just like it did back then, it just shows up out of the blue. Even though there was roller coasters, a big old Ferris wheel, fun houses, and all manner of sideshows, no one ever saw them setting up shop. Weren't no trucks driving up through town or across the interstate nearby. No flyers advertising they was coming. No indication in the slightest that something special would arrive soon enough. Nothing but the scent in the air, and that eerie music drawn closer by the day, though not everyone could even hear or smell it. But they'd still go. They'd still walk up willingly, smiling like it was their own idea to attend, laughing alongside those they was with, as though they wanted to be there, as though they was prepared for what they'd see. All these years later, with my body hooked up to all these machines and those cold fingers of death creeping closer and closer, I still remember that night like it was yesterday. Tonight, as that ambient beeping counts down the remaining hours of my life, I know they're coming back too. They ain't just coming back. No, I reckon they're already out there, live and in person, for one night only. I smell it in the air, carried by the wind through the cracked open window. The popcorn, funnel cakes, and that hint of gasoline. I hear it too. That familiar music inviting me in, begging me to crawl out of this bed, peeling the needles from my arm, just to see it again. Maybe I got enough life left in me to cross through that gate one last time. It don't take much to unhook myself. A lot less effort than I expected, if I'm being honest. Whether it's the power of that place that'll be gone by sunup, or just the exhilarating intimidation I'm feeling, I'm a lot lighter on my feet than I expected. I can see that I'm the last one out of my room, with anyone else that can walk already strolling down the hallway ahead of me, cutting up like they ain't got a care in the world. It don't matter who makes it first, of course. I reckon I'll make it before they fade away from this here town. I figure I'll share the tale of that night while I'm hoofing it across town. Sounds like it ain't too far out, all things considered. I ain't gonna be around after this night anyways. If I'm gonna tell it, it might as well be now, I suppose. This town was a lot smaller back then. Maybe 3 gas stations, a few diners, a handful of stores, and 5 traffic lights in all. This was where my folks was born, and even now, I ain't never lived nowheres else. It's expanded a good deal over the years. Still home to me, though. Only one I've ever known. The schoolhouse only had around 20 students per grade, give or take a few, and just about everyone knowed everyone. I was small for my age. I figure I looked maybe 9 or 10 at most, even edging up on my teens. So I fit in more with some of the kids a grade or 3 behind me. Those my own age had a tendency to poke fun, or just never take me serious. Well, looking back, I reckon there wasn't no harm intended. But it ain't always easy to convince the premature mind of things like that. And back when I was around 8 in 3rd grade, I kinda kept to myself. It was until Ben, a 1st grader who looked about the age I should've, started cutting up with me at lunch. He just come over to where I was sitting alone one day, as I tended to do, took a seat and started talking like we'd knowed each other for years. Didn't take me no time to drop my guard and get to feeling comfortable around him. Before I knew it, Lucy and Shelley, 2 2nd graders, and Sam, another 1st, who'd knowed Ben for some years, had joined our little group too. I blossomed like a flower over those first few months with my friends. Felt more content than I reckon I ever had before. Yeah, I'd get a bit of butterflies hopping around my gut when Lucy was nearby. I figure she damn well knew that too. Yeah, but she never said nothing. Neither did I, for that matter. Some years passed by with my little group growing closer and closer. Yeah, I still had that fire in my belly whenever I'd see Lucy for the first time each day, but it'd ease as the morning would progress. I reckon we was too young to pursue a thing like what was on my mind anyways, but that didn't make it go away neither. I was in 7th grade, the girls in 6th, and the other 2 in 5th, when I first heard about the carnival. Hell, I can't lie, I was a suspicious little feller back then, so I wasn't about to buy into what was told to us that afternoon. Being the oldest of us, even if I didn't look it, I figured it was my responsibility to be the wise one. While the rest of the group just glared on, clearly following every damned word the older kids said, I just took to rolling my eyes, sighing as loud as I could. His name was Jacob, I think, the 9th grader who was trying to school us on it. He said his grandpappy saw it one Halloween night when he was just a little tyke. He'd sometimes bring it up when he'd had a few beers more than he should have. Jacob Daniels, yeah, that was his name. Around 14 or 15, if my old memory is serving me right. He was a tall one, standing just under 6 foot at that age. I remember wondering how tall he would have got by the time he growed up all the way. I never did find that out, now that I think about it. I'm feeling my heart start to race. Been walking down the road for a while now, all to these old bones anyways. That smell is getting stronger, and the music sounds like it's coming from all around me now. It's a little after 1 in the a.m. Halloween has always been a big deal in this town, even after what happened back then. Walking by all the decorations does bring a smile to this wrinkled and dried up face. I am glad that the tragedy of it all didn't taint the holiday for everyone. Yeah, I know the carnival will be gone come sunup. I reckon I'll make it, if I am as close as it feels. Sounds kinda strange, don't it? Hell, I figure all this sounds a bit nuts. That don't matter, though. Tell you the truth, I've felt it coming for some weeks now. Didn't realize it, you know. Didn't know that's what it meant, even though that's the way Daniel said it was with his grandpappy. Didn't fully understand what was happening the first time I come to town, neither. It was until these last few days, when I knowed what that tingling in my spine and my gut was trying to tell me. That it was creeping closer with every night the moon lit up the world below. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be there soon. I'll make it. This one last time. When I asked Jacob why he was talking about this supposedly mysterious carnival, I reckon that's when everyone else started to blow him off. He told us his grandpappy warned that it was inching closer by the day, that before the sun come up on the morning of Devil's Night, wouldn't nothing be the same again. Yeah, he didn't know all the details about the how and why things would be different. His grandpappy never let him in on that. Just that sometime after nightfall, on this here coming Halloween, the Night Carnival would come to town. Just for one night, here after dark and gone by light, and the world wouldn't never be the same for those who walked away. Jacob looked downright pale when he said that last part. Said his grandpappy damn near seemed catatonic when he spoke those same words. He just sat there staring at us when his story come to a close. Didn't tell us what had actually happened at that carnival on account of the fact that he didn't rightly know himself. But I wanted to ask him more, you know. Even though I didn't buy what he was selling, he definitely had my curiosity by the balls. He just took off once he said what he wanted, and I didn't never gather up the guts to ask him more about it. Hell, Jacob Daniels stopped at every table in the cafeteria that day, I reckon. Yeah, some folks just laughed him off, others looked to be playing along. But I could see it as much as he did, I suppose, that no one actually took him serious. Still, whether somewhere in the back of my mind, even a little part of me believed it, or just kinda liked the idea of what he was trying to say, it planted a seed in me. After talking with my friends too, it wasn't hard to see that they was in the same boat. Now, even though I was just a kid, I knew damn well that there was something off about this little town. Folks whisper, you know, everyone's got secrets, but around a place like this one, ain't no one keeping them quiet enough. And there's cheating spouses, folks stealing from their jobs, family and friends, and the neighborhood drunks and junkies. And I ain't even about to get into the corruption in the mayor's office. Though I didn't know nor care about all that back then. Yeah, just about everyone knew a lot about these dirty little secrets. But the one who'd been snatching up kids, one every 3 or 4 months for almost 2 years at that point. Yeah, didn't no one know who was pulling that off. Now, there was a curfew, of course, but didn't no one listen to all that. And we was hard-headed beyond all reason, every damn one of us, I reckon. That was a damn fact. Yeah, we was tough, right? Didn't nothing scare us. And not until those distant sounds and that sweet smell started to breach the land around us. First time I registered it, that eerie music carried by the wind. It was the middle of that last week leading up to Halloween. I was just walking back to the house after school let out. On any normal day, I'd have Ben alongside me, and we'd spend that 30 minutes of hoofing it just cutting up like we didn't have a care in the world. But he'd come down with a nasty cold that week and hadn't stepped foot in class since the Friday before. I was already halfway home by the time that creepy song caught the attention of my youthful ears. It was mostly road and empty houses I was passing by, but there weren't no bystanders out in the old abandoned street I used for my daily shortcut. I wasn't alone, though. Not as much as I thought I was, anyways. When that tune caught my ears, I stopped in place for a time, looking this way and that. That's when I saw the hooded feller, just a ways behind me. He wasn't big or any kind of intimidating in stature or size, but he unsettled me something awful. The fact that he was stopped in place too, facing towards where I was looking back, I reckon that made his presence on that otherwise vacant street all the more unnerving, you know? Just me and him facing one another and that haunting chorus echoing across the wind. Soon as he took one single step, I took off running, not looking back. I could hear his stride pick up too, his swift footfalls mimicking my own, but I wouldn't let up. Hell, I was clutching my side by the time I made it back to my street, with my home just a few yards ahead. When I took a chance at a glance behind me, there wasn't no sign of the hooded man, just the road and street I'd left behind. I was rattled when I got home, my heart still trying to knock a crack or three in my sternum. But after a while, I just chalked the whole thing up to my own fears getting the best of me. I had no doubt my folks wouldn't take it serious if I brought it up to them, so I just pushed it to the back of my mind. That eerie song on the wind, though, that was something I couldn't ignore. The next couple of days came and went, with that sound drawn closer and closer still. When I woke up that Friday morning, getting myself ready for the last day of the school week, I swear it was so much louder. It was downright impossible to ignore. I reluctantly brought it up to my mom, scared she was going to tell Pop that his son was hearing shit that wasn't there. But she just brushed me off, talking about my imagination getting carried away. She said there wasn't nothing but the sounds of the world out there, the chirping birds and cars drifting by, starting their day too. Told me I didn't need to be telling stories neither. But she didn't reprimand me or nothing, just said there wasn't no sense in making stuff up, especially this early in the morning. There was something in her face, though. Something that told me that she did know exactly what I was talking about. She just glanced out the window while I was gathering up my things for school, paying no mind to what I was doing. Yeah, I reckon she could hear it too. Just couldn't neither accept nor admit it. Of course, maybe I'm just reaching, or my mind is altering the truth of the little things, before the Night Carnival made it to town, making it easier for me to come to terms with the things that happened, and the decision I made that night. Maybe she was as blindsided as everyone else when they took that same walk I'm making now. I feel like I'm getting close now. The music is getting louder, like it's coming from just over the ridge ahead. Don't mean I'm almost there, of course. That's just the way it is. At least from what I remember the last time I come to see them. Or did they come to see me? Reckon I might get that answer soon. If I can make it in time. It's getting late, or early, depending on what side of the day and night we're on. I'm sure they've been out there since midnight at least. Might be since the sun went down. That's the funny thing, I don't even remember what time it was when they come the last time. just that they was gone by sunup. Not a trace of them left behind. I reckon I still got time. There's still a few stragglers walking behind and before me, all making better time than me on account of these old bones struggling so much. But I don't see a hint of light on the horizon. Not yet, anyways. No, they ain't gonna leave until I make it. Yeah, they can feel me coming too. That last bit of unfinished business they left behind. I just know it. I just know that this is how my story is supposed to end. Only way it can go. Yeah, still a ways to go. Still got time to get it all out before it's all over, once and for all. Ben, Lucy, Shelley, and Sam all looked a bit spooked when I walked up to them that morning. We didn't need to say it out loud to know that we was all on the same page, that all of us could hear that haunting tune even while we sat silent and still. That whole day felt like it drifted by in a blur, like an unfocused image accompanied by an eerie soundtrack and muffled voices, barely making it through. Didn't none of us talk about it, even at lunch. Hell, I don't think we spoke a single word that day. Sure, Ben was still feeling a bit rough, talking about his throat hurting too much to speak. But I knew that wasn't the whole truth of why he was as quiet as the rest of us. And my best friend ended up calling his mama to pick him up early. She wasn't none too thrilled about that neither. But as it was, that meant I'd be making that walk home alone again. I can't lie though, a whole lot of that day is a bit of a blur to my memory, aside from some flashes here and there. Only thing I really remember vividly about anything that happened after school and before that song finally lured us in was that hooded man damn near snatching me up. Yeah, I took off running the second I saw him again, but his legs had a good bit more length to them than mine. It wasn't nothing more than sheer determination and fear that allowed me to slip the bag from my back when he took hold of it. When he damn near stumbled to the ground as I sprinted on, leaving my satchel in his grip, I didn't waste no time looking back this time. Naturally, my pop tanned my hide, blackened my eye pretty good, and split my lip when I told him I'd lost my school bag. Told me I was making the whole thing up about the one who took it from me, so I wouldn't get into trouble. Can't lie, while I lay there on the floor, crying and bleeding, wincing more with every kick the old man landed on my gut. I wish I had just let the hooded man take me and end my sorry life once and for all. The way Mama just stood there watching, covering her mouth and shaking her head, I just knew that didn't neither of my folks give a damn about their only son. Suppose I didn't neither at that point. Hell, from the rumors I'd heard, the only thing Mama cared about was keeping the truth from her husband about the other man she was seeing on the side. Of course, if those rumors were the facts of things, then the one Ben heard about his mom and my pop were likely true too. Yeah, there wasn't much loyalty between the spouses of these town folks. Sure, people make stuff up all the time, but it wasn't exactly a stretch of the imagination to buy into the stories neither. That night, though, I was in such a sorry state after my whooping, I didn't even want to be in this world no more, let alone conscious of the hours drifting by. Figure that's why most of that day is a bit of a blur to my mind. That, along with what come the next night. But none of the events of that afternoon and evening matters much. I just stayed locked up in my bedroom, my face still swollen and sore. With curfew and the state of things in town, trick-or-treating had been called off. Yeah, we was all pretty upset about that, my friends and I, when they announced it earlier in the month. Figure that's another reason why I was in such a funk that night. Well, that as well as the bruises across my gut, causing me to cough and wince at the same time. Yeah, ain't none of that relevant, I reckon. Nothing, up until that siren song finally called everyone to attend the Night Carnival. I think I was still asleep before I come to find myself walking down the stairs, still in my jammies. I'd at least slid the slippers on my feet, something I didn't fully notice until I stepped onto the tarmac of the road. I mean, I was aware, like I had my full faculties and mindset, leaving me all the more puzzled by the road crowded with probably everyone from my neighborhood. I could see my folks a ways ahead of me, but I damn sure didn't feel no desire to quicken my pace to catch up with them. Even if I didn't feel my hastened heartbeat pulsing in my swollen eye and lip, I wouldn't want to be at their side on this. Hell, I didn't even fully understand why I felt a strong desire to follow this course, even with everyone else smiling and laughing, like they didn't care about nothing else. But I wasn't about to turn around neither. Thing is, while everyone else shambling down the road seemed to only register as those directly beside him, I just kept cutting my eyes all around. Now, I felt like I was about the only one in this sea of preoccupied folks who had enough mind left to be nervous about where we was headed. Whether that was on account of the warning we'd gotten about what it meant, or that scent of popcorn and funnel cakes filled the air, or something else entirely. Couldn't rightly say. But when my youthful ears picked up the sound of much quicker feet slapping against the concrete from somewheres to my back, I finally did have a reason to let the fear take hold of me. I can't say why in this scattered sea of townsfolk, the man in the hooded shirt had his eyes fixed on me and me alone. But when I turned to see him running, tweening around the neighbors behind me, I didn't waste no time trying to conjure the reason. I just took off again as fast as my tiny legs could carry me. This would be the one time that my smaller dimensions give me an advantage over the longer strides chasing me down. Hell, I ducked and weaved and dodged around and between the folks before me, not so much as looking up at the vacant gaze of the folks when I passed them by. Every now and then, when I'd inadvertently bump into one person or another, they still didn't appear to even register I was there, or anyone else for that matter. On the rare occasion I took the opportunity to take a glance behind me, though, I saw folks continuing to bump into one another, still acting like they was the only ones there. Again, I wasn't about to dwell on whatever was going through anyone else's mind but mine, and the one who wouldn't let up trying to catch up to me. Hell, I reckon he was as aware as I was, both about how everyone else's mind was singularly focused, and that he and I may well have more awareness than anyone in this whole town by this point. It didn't take long to pass by the last of my neighbors, nor to divine the next step in my journey. There wasn't much of a break in foot traffic between those of my neighborhood and of the next one. As I crossed over the hill looking down on Main Street, not only could I clearly see that every step of that last stretch before the outskirts was as filled with townsfolk as the street I'd left behind, but I could also make out the ominous, flickering lights of that place that was drawing us all in. My side was hurting like a sumbitch when I let up for a moment, taking another glance behind me to see that the one chasing me was still a ways back, looking downright winded himself. Yeah, he was running out of steam, just as much as I was, but that didn't mean I could take it easy or nothing. I don't know how I knew that he wouldn't be able to hurt me if I made it through the gate of that carnival. Hell, I don't honestly know if I did fully understand that at the time, but I just had to make it there no matter what. Somewheres in the distance, not too far from where I could see folks forming a single file line at the gate, my young eyes caught sight of something that damn near caused my heart to leap into my throat. Ben, Lucy, and Shelley on their bikes, veering onto Main Street from a road to the left. I didn't see no trace of Sam, but I know he lived on the opposite side of town. Likely he was still a ways off himself. Yeah, I hollered as loud as I could, but from this distance, I could barely hear my own voice above that eerie chorus and the joyful voices of the crowd. Ain't no way they'd be able to hear me neither. But as I continued on, still cutting my eyes from one side to the other, while them heavy feet drawed closer to me once more, I saw something else that inspired my heart to jump around a bit. I don't know if the bikes parked outside the shop closed down for the night belonged to anyone, or they just might have been inventory that wasn't stowed away given the distractions and all, but I wasn't about to worry one way or the other neither. I just hopped on the first one I come to without a second thought. Yeah, my legs was tired as hell and my breathing heavier than my 2-pack-a-day grandpa was for his heart gave out some years back. With the healthy downhill slant ahead of me, leading right through the center of Main Street, I wouldn't have to worry about anything but weaving between the folks who wouldn't even notice me. Even with the laughing crowd and that music muffling everything else, I still heard the aggravated scream from the one trying to catch me as I gunned it down the hill. I almost allowed a cocky laugh to echo from my trembling lips, but I knowed I had to focus on the road and not nailing any of the innocent ahead. Yeah, it was a bit of a nail-biting trip down that hill, even more so when I saw my friends passing through that gate ahead in the distance. But it didn't take long for me to close that final gap. Folks were less constant over that last stretch after the ground leveled back out. The closer I come, though, I swear I could feel the place like it was inside of me. I reckon that sounds a bit strange, but that's how it was. It was like butterflies in your gut, though far more intense, like them little wings beating across everything in my insides as if they was hopped up on some kind of drug. To make things more bizarre, I liked it, the way it felt within me. I could see that not only did this carnival that set itself up out of the blue stretch much further back than I could even make out, but the jack-o'-lanterns and eerie decor surrounded the near vicinity outside as well as within. Now, even though this town gets into the season, even at its best there weren't never this many decorations. Not everywhere in town, not down toward Main Street anyway. And since any festivities had been called off this year, no one had put out the first carved pumpkin or plastic bats or ghouls. Seeing how extravagantly even the outside of the park looked, it was as if the whole town had come together to decorate, but there wasn't the first sign of any of this when I left from school the day before, nor the weeks leading up to Halloween night. The line to get in stretched a ways back from the gate, of course, but it wasn't taking them long to get the seemingly excited townfolk in, from what I could tell. I did find it strange, though, that they was all waiting patiently behind those they hadn't even seemed to register up until now. Yeah, they wasn't exactly paying each other any attention, but they wasn't trying to walk over one another neither. When I was finally close enough to make out the faces of the ones handing out ticket stubs, I swear I felt eyes damn near boring into my skull. Took me a second to track who it was through the cluttered heads gradually forming themselves into a straight line. Suppose it was the movement that caught my eyes more than the smiling face of the one that beckoned me onward. I would say that he was tall, but that seems unnecessary given the fact that I was pretty small back then. Didn't take much for even someone of average proportions to seem like a giant to me. But the closer I come to the one waving his arm at me, there was something about him that just didn't seem like no one I'd ever seen before, nor would again after that night. Yeah, he was tall, even more so than everyone in that line, but not intimidatingly so. He was hauntingly slim too, not just like the poor feller needed to eat a damn sandwich or nothing. It felt like this was what he should look like, you know? Like any wider, shorter, or even thinner just wouldn't have fit. His top hat made him look even taller, as did the tails of his black velvet coat. His burgundy pants had black stripes, leading up to what was either many black leather belts, or one long one wrapped around his waist about 10 times or so. His vest matched his pants, and his shirt matched the stained white gloves on each hand. His tie was a much more vibrant red, just like the band round the base of his hat. But every inch of his clothes was lined in some kind of dust or grime. It didn't look filthy though, if that makes sense. Just like some Halloween costume that was designed to look beat up and worn out. His face was as thin as the rest of him, his mouth wide beneath a mustache curled on each side. He had a beard that wasn't too long but come down to a point about 2 inches beneath his chin, and his straight, silky, jet black hair was tied behind his head, hanging down to just above his waist. Of course, that was something I didn't take note of until he turned to wave a little girl through the gate, tipping his hat with a friendly smile. Soon as she crossed through, though, he turned his eyes back to me. Eyes I could now see were an almost mesmerizing, shimmering sky blue. When I got within some 10 or 15 feet of the man, having rode up to the side of the lined-up townsfolk, I hit the brakes, climbed off my borrowed bike, and just let it fall to the side of the road. The man gave me a little chuckle when I let the bike drop, followed by a wink when I started to stroll right toward him. Even when I got within a few steps of him, he didn't scare me. Yeah, he was almost unfathomably tall compared to my tiny body, but even with his face slender and gaunt, there was something invitingly youthful about him. By the time I found myself standing right before the man, craning my neck in an attempt to look him in the eye, I finally noticed what it was about him that made him appear so tall. His arms didn't seem no longer than any other adult I'd seen, nor did his body or neck. It was just his legs, almost twice as long as they likely should have been. When he leaned over, bending his knees just a little, I took note of how far from the ground those knees were, the shins doubling his thighs in height. I reckon he was wearing some kind of stilts, tucked under his extended pant legs. When I cut my eyes from them striped trousers to the vibrant blue pupils gazing almost right into my soul, the smirk lining his thin lips assured me that he knew that I knew the secret of his otherworldly dimensions. The voice that echoed from his mouth as he called my name into the night almost caused that sensation of fear to return, but only for a moment. Yeah, it was deep, feeling like it caused my eardrums to vibrate from its pitch, but there wasn't the slightest hint of malice in those kind eyes. Even though the man right next to the gate was handing over ticket stubs as he waved on the almost painfully distracted townsfolk, the man in the top hat handed me a full-size ticket rather than giving the halves the other feller was giving out. Before he raised back up, ushering me through, he told me to enjoy the rides, the sideshows, and the games as much as I wanted. Everything was free, and myself and a select few others would be the first in line no matter how many was waiting. Before I cleared that entrance, though, I felt a gentle grip on my shoulder, reminding me of the one that was following me out this way. When I turned to see those same blue eyes again, though, I didn't know what to expect. He just gave me that friendly smirk again, telling me to make sure I made my way back to the gate before the sun come up fully. Told me he'd be waiting there for me. He'd like to have a word before we part ways. Again, there wasn't nothing mean or intense behind his gaze, but something about those closing words he wanted to share with me before the sun rose made me a bit nervous. Maybe that was just the lingering doubts left by the one that warned us about this very carnival coming to town. I'm definitely almost there now. I can feel it like I did back then. Didn't know this old body was capable of forming butterflies no more. Reckon this place still has a power over me, even after all the decades gone by. I wondered through the years if that's what the others lured in felt, just like those walking the streets with me now, barely aware of one another. Still can't figure out why I still see everyone so clearly, even those bumping shoulders without a word or reaction. Hell, maybe that's how I look to the others, I guess. Maybe their minds are in overdrive too. They just can't express it above that joyful glint in their eyes. And it don't matter anymore, of course. I know that this is my final destination. That these old bones won't see another tomorrow. And I'm alright with it. I feel like I've lived too damn long anyways. I needed this. I needed to hold out long enough to see that place one more time. Ain't got much longer to go now. I see the aura of the flickering lights up ahead. The sun still ain't showing no signs of popping back up. Yeah, I'll make it. I'll make it soon enough. Might even make it to the end of my tale as well. As soon as I crossed through that gate, it was like I'd walked into a whole new realm of existence. Looking back the way I'd come, it was like everything and everyone behind the gate was hidden behind an eerie kind of haze. The world was still out there, of course. I just couldn't quite make it out. At the time, I just chalked that up to the blinking lights around the archway playing tricks with my eyes. That was enough to convince my youthful mind that everything was all right, or as right as anything had been that night. Those who had been so distracted as they walked here before entering were still cutting up and laughing, having a good old time. Happy folks were standing in line waiting on their turns for the rides, while others were smiling as wide as they could, playing sideshow games and the like. Yeah, they still didn't seem like they fully registered one another, but they could damn sure make out those who worked the rides and helmed the games. Some still bumped into each other without a second glance, but there wasn't a sad face in sight. Just a sea of happy folks, happier than I reckon I'd ever seen them before. It was just as I felt content enough, distracted by all the fun surrounding me, when the hand gripping onto my shoulder reminded me of what sent me running in the first place. Looking back, he didn't look no more than maybe in his early 30s. A man with a slender face, sunken eyes, and messy, sweat-lined hair. He was still wheezing a bit from the flat-out sprint that followed me all the way here. The hood had slipped down his head, or been pulled down once he realized there wasn't no reason to hide his face amongst those who barely even registered the both of us. But that smile he wore, that satisfied smirk that just knew he had won, and there wasn't nothing more I could do to outrun him. That was the most horrific aspect to him. Between that knowing grin and the bloodlust behind his dark eyes, I reckon I knew exactly what he had in store for me. When he picked up my shivering body from the ground, before my little feet could even attempt to scurry away from him, I just knowed I was done for. I took to screaming till my little throat burned, cursing those who didn't even look away from the fun they was having. I just couldn't understand it, why not one person gave any kind of damn that this monster was about to take another child from this community. People was walking all around us, not even glancing my way while he yelled out to them. One that held me just took to laughing as he began to walk back towards the gate. I was still shouting out to those who wouldn't even hear me, not succeeding in getting a rise out of those that was running the park neither. That was until the one that let me in looked my way. As I was kicking and screaming, trying to break out of the tight grip holding on to me, that gate drawing closer with every step, the man in the top hat back in the outside world come into focus, while everyone and everything beyond that open entrance looked like a blurry Polaroid picture. That tall and slender feller looked as clear as everything else on the inside. He just gave me a wink, tipping the brim of his hat. Whatever it was, whether just the relief that someone could see me, or that strange kind of safety that man made me feel, I suddenly wasn't scared no more. Wasn't no one else reacting to the tall man, not even the one trying to carry me from the carnival. But when that feller on the outside begun to put on some kind of pantomime show for me, and me alone, it didn't take me long to take the hint he was trying to give me. It was like he was playing out some kind of fight, turning in place every time he switched between one character and the other. But when one of the parts he was playing swiftly kicked up his foot, while the other grabbed at his pills, buckling over and phony puking to the ground, I knew I had to act fast, especially with us about to cross back through the gate. The man in the hooded sweatshirt didn't waste no time releasing his grip on me neither, after I felt his boys crunch from my kick. I just knew I'd broken a toe or three with how much force I put into that swing. I reckon my back got good and bruised when I hit the dirt after he buckled over too. Didn't matter though. The second I hit the dirt and grass, I just jumped right back to my feet and took off running. I barely registered the throbbing toes at the time, just run off as quick as my little legs could take me. Yeah, the man whose berries may well have burst was hollering more cuss words than I'd ever heard at that age, but it sounded like the pitch of his voice had reached a new height on account of my kick too. I didn't look back as I run off, deeper into the park though. Yeah, everyone I pinballed between on account of my clumsy feet didn't even notice me, but I wasn't paying much attention to them neither, to be honest. I just had to find a place to hide. I couldn't even tell you how long I run for, how deep into the guts of that carnival I made it, nor whether the outside world still existed behind the boundaries of that place. But when I found myself somewheres behind all the rides and saws, with my shadow cast across the ground for me on account of the lights to my back, I suddenly grew aware of how quiet things had gotten. There wasn't even the subtle howl of the wind, nor the crunch of the leaves and grass beneath my feet as I slowed my run to a stroll. I didn't see no one around me, nor did I feel any trace of the townsfolk crowding the park as I made my run. As I turned back, though, to see that hooded man edging closer still, it wasn't him that suddenly had me rattled, but the eyes I felt glaring through my skull. I still kept my gaze fixed on the one who'd been chasing me since I left my home, even with that sensation of being watched. That was, until he stopped too, spinning his body from left to right. It was clear that something had him spooked. Hell, it was like he felt himself being watched just like I did, the way he kept turning this way and that. I don't know what it was, whether dumb, childlike curiosity, or just my need to get some answers to all of this. But when he suddenly fixed his eyes on something to his side, I couldn't stop myself from taking a few steps closer. That's when I saw it. What inspired the man's body to start trembling and twitching. It was so thin, the mirror standing right next to him, that I couldn't make out till I was more of an angle where he was looking. And when I become so mesmerized by the vision of his deformed and mutated reflection, I couldn't even hope to tear my eyes from it too. By the time my checked out brain guided my feet right up to the side of the man who'd taken so many children from this town, when even right next to the sumbitch, the reflection showed no trace of me, just a twisted, monstrous creature wearing the same clothes as my would-be abductor. I just knowed I had nothing to fear from it. And for the briefest moment, the stranger cut his eyes back to mine as they spilled a river of tears down his face. It was like, in that split second before what come next, he was begging for my forgiveness. But I wouldn't give it to him. Not for whatever he had planned for me, and damn sure not for those he'd taken before he tried to snatch me up. I couldn't tell you what inspired me to give him a quick wink and a smirk, well aware that this would be his last sight on this side of the looking glass. Suppose it didn't really make much difference at the time. His fate was sealed. I knew it as well as he did. It was so damn quick when it happened. When his twisted reflection reached out for him, pasting his body flat against the glass. When his scream rang out, it joined a chorus of equally horrified squeals from what could have been across the entire world for all I knew. When his body smeared, squirmed, and flattened more and more, that anguished, echoing howl of possibly hundreds of tormented voices dropped me to my knees, my hands clutching around my ears. I wanted to close my eyes. I was begging them to close, but I couldn't even hope to. It was as though something held my lids open, tears streaming down my face as the squelching, ripping, and tearing noises joined those of the many horror-stricken wails. Thick blood and viscera poured to the grass while bones crunched and shattered. It was like that mirror was some kind of doorway, yanking the very essence of the screaming man through a series of unseen holes, spilling out everything that couldn't cross through to the other side. By the time that chorus of agony fell silent, the only sound lingering being my own whimpers, joined by a handful of others across the park, each whining in anguish. The only thing left of the one who'd so relentlessly chased me down was a puddle of sticky gore, fragmented bones, and torn up fabric. I see the lights as clear as day now. There's a hint of a glow on the horizon, too. I've passed by a scattering of jack-o'-lanterns, too, only growing more numerous the closer I get. Yeah, I reckon I'll be crossing through that gate any minute now, if they'll even let me in a second time. I see the tall man off in the distance, his top hat looking just like I remember it. Can't make out his features just yet, but I feel him looking back at me. I'm trembling pretty good. I couldn't deny that if I tried. Whether that's from this long walk or the intimidation that my mirror might be waiting for me, set to pull me through like it did so many before. Hell, I reckon I can't even predict. I've tried to be a good man my whole life. It wasn't easy, mind you. There's always temptations to cross into a darker path. And I know I could have made some better decisions along the way. Don't much matter, though. Whatever's waiting for me across that gateway, I wasn't going to see beyond this night either way. Not long to go now. Not much left to tell, neither. I slow my stride just a little bit, just to make sure I can reach the end of my tale before my own story is done. With how close I am now, yeah, I know I'll make it before sunrise. Just a little ways left. When I finally turned away from the grisly sight before me, when I followed my mind in search of the one who still glared into the back of my head, I just knowed I was about to face the same fate as the mound of blood and tissue on the grass. When my own mirror had erected at my back, I can't rightly predict, though I had felt it staring at me for quite some time now. But when my eyes met those of what felt more like some kind of bizarre twin than a distorted reflection, even with my heart beating against my chest from the inside, I couldn't help but to return the loving smile it gave me. For a time, we just looked upon one another, my mirror image and me. We both giggled as I turned my head one way and he turned his the other, like the polar opposite of how a mirror should work. I raised my left arm and he raised his left. I stood on one leg and he stood on the other. Hell, we was both cutting up and laughing like a couple of toddlers. And I don't think I'd ever felt so carefree before then. I never would again. Honestly, I couldn't deny that I was a blast to spend time with, as vain as that may sound. After a time, the other me gave me a wink and a wave, inspiring me to do the same, from the opposite side, of course. He still smiled up at me while he begun to sink into the dirt, giving me one last tip of his fingers to his forehead before he sunk all the way under. Even with how light that experience made my heart, when I spun back around to come face to, well, goop of what was left of the one who chased me down, I damn near felt my legs trying to give out from under me. It took me a while to get moving while I just stood there, glaring at that grotesque mound. I just knowed what I would be facing when I walked back the way I'd come, too. That those now silent screams, still echoing against my eardrums, belonged to more clumps of meat and gore scattered across the ground. That's exactly what I saw, too, all across the now vacant rides and sideshows. It seemed like the world had at least started spinning again, the breeze slightly tossing the banners, plastic skeletons, and hanging lights. But there weren't no laughing families or cheering kids enjoying the festivities. Just wind and silence. I felt and heard my footsteps as I weaved between and around the scatterings of leftover flesh and bone, but I fought my eyes as they attempted to drift to the ground, fully aware that my bubbling gut would spill over if I took the time to count how many townsfolk had dropped. As soon as I turned that last corner, noticing the folks standing for the way out, I swear I felt my heart trying to leap into my throat. Not only were my only friends in the world there, but at least a good amount of adults too. Hell, I couldn't tell you what the population of my hometown had been back then, but I just knowed there was at least 5 to 10 times the number that was left before the Night Carnival come calling. It didn't matter though. Yeah, I didn't see no trace of my folks up there and didn't much care that their mirrors had likely shown them for the miserable shits they were in life. All I cared about was that those that did truly matter was alright. As I run up to where everyone was lined up side by side, I noticed more shaky and bewildered civilians coming from here and there, from a side and behind me too. Ben, Lucy, Shelley, and Sam all turned to face me when I run up on them, their welcoming smiles causing a warmth to spread through me I figured I'd never feel again just a little while back. They didn't say nothing. Lucy just held out her hand for me to take in mine. It was then that I noticed all 4 of them were linked by the fingers, and I didn't even hesitate to weave mine between hers. I swear I felt my pulse ramp up a good 10 times over when I felt the heat of her palm against mine. But I didn't say nothing, just took my place beside her. Once everyone left and this here town wandered up, with not one bewildered face uttering a single word, the man in the top hat, along with a handful of other extravagantly dressed circus folk, came strolling up before us. When I felt Lucy's hand begin to tremble in mine, I gripped my fingers just a little tighter around hers, just to let her know that it'd be all right. I can't say how I knowed that, mind you, but I did. Hadn't the slightest doubt about it. With those who tended to the rides and games, were man and woman the gate and lines, lined up before us, with the taller feller standing in the middle, right between us and them. He pulled off his hat for the first time. Long, silky black hair spilled across his face as he took a humble bow. His voice, though deep and kind of imposing, was so kind in the way it spoke. He didn't say much, just sort of bragged on all who remained for being genuinely good folks. Before he took one last bow, gesturing with his arm outstretched to allow us to leave, unharmed and free, he granted us all the same offer. to join the Night Carnival and bring justice to towns the world over, to judge the wicked and free the innocent from their torment, and to live a life of adventure and freedom, the likes of which we'd never known. Most of the townsfolk didn't hesitate once he waved to the exit, each of them fading into that blurry haze when they crossed back over to the real world. My aunt and uncle on my mama's side, Tony and Lynn, gave me a subtle gesture as they passed, silently assuring me that I had a place to stay with my mom and pop gone. I knowed, judging by the shell-shocked looks on their faces and those that walked alongside them, that this night would be haunting everyone for years to come. But I didn't know which way to turn at the time, to stay or to go. Either choice was going to be a whole new life after all. Within not even a few minutes, all that was left inside of this altered reality was those who worked there, and us 5 friends still standing hand in hand. The man in the top hat still stood before us, cutting his eyes between us one by one. Ben spoke up for anyone, not even taking his eye from the one who stood up front. He said he was staying, his voice almost blank and emotionless. Sam and Shelley just nodded, saying they weren't going back neither. I still felt Lucy's hand shivering in mine, knowing that mine was shaking just as much. When she turned her head to look at me, my heart skipping like it did every time our eyes met, I knowed what she was going to say before a single word left her mouth. Yeah, her voice quivered while she told me she was staying too, her smile uncertain but firm. At that moment, I wanted nothing more than to remain with my friends. When I looked back at the one who towered over us, his smile as warm as those of the friends who now faced me too. I don't rightly know what happened, but I regretted it immediately. Lucy's eyes began to well up when my fingers slipped from hers, my trembling legs guiding me away from the only friends I had. She reached her hand out to me while I continued to back away, feeling the breeze from the outside world against my back again as I drew closer to it. I just can't, I stuttered, cutting one final gaze at the one who tipped the brim of his top hat, and back to the one who shed tears for me. I didn't fully realize it when I crossed over that border, but when I whipped my head around to see the familiar tarmac of Main Street just a ways off, I spun right back around to see no trace of the Night Carnival, nor those I left inside. Wasn't no jack-o'-lanterns or any other manner of that delightfully spooky decor. No blinking lights, no eerie music, no popcorn drifting through the air. The Night Carnival was gone. Gone as quickly as it had come. Life was never the same after that night. Not for the town, and damn sure not for me. I know it was just my fears and apprehensions that inspired me to walk away from them, but I would regret that decision every single day for the remainder of my years. Tony and Lynn took me in as their own, and raised me with more love than my folks had ever showed me. The town itself grieved for those who'd lost, but moved on after a time. Could no one argue that those who faced the dark side of the carnival's justice likely had it coming? But loss is loss, nonetheless. I lived a good life, all things considered. Loved a good woman for many years, before she left this world some 10 years back. We raised our children with more love than my parents had ever even tried to give me. Tony and Lynn were good grandparents to Ben and Lucy, the son and daughter I still adore with every fiber of my being. My adopted parents passed on a few decades back themselves, but they was truly something special, the both of them. Yeah, my kids have long since moved on with their own lives, and their own families too. They're successful and happy, and I know that my Jenny and me prepared them well for this world. I do wish I could see them all again, though. Just one last time before the end of the road. Well, I reckon that's the end of my tale and my journey to boot. I swear, now that I can see him up close, the man in the top hat still looks as youthful as the day we first met. Suppose this is goodbye now. Just know that, if you ever hear tales of a dark carnival coming to town, sending the scent of popcorn and funnel cakes across the wind, and an eerie song across the land, if you ain't a particularly good person, you might just want to take a vacation for a time. If you're good, though, confidently so, beyond a shadow of a doubt, go on and stick around. You might just have yourself a good old time. But don't expect your town to be the same as it was before, should you step foot back into this world again. Ah, young Mr. Terence Harker. We meet again. Glad I made it in time before y'all run off again. Oh, Mr. Harker. We wouldn't have left without you. Not this time. Reckon I'm here to stay this time. One way or another. There's only one way we would have you, my dear friend. Allow me to escort you inside. And how does that feel, young Mr. Harker?
How? How's this happening? Is this real?
Quite simple, my youthful friend. This is the version of you who was always meant to stay with us. The version which has been awaiting your return.
I can stay? I ain't gonna die?
You've always been one of us, Master Terence. And that is not all.
Oh my God. Is it really them?
They have been anticipating your return as much as I.
I don't know how to thank you.
And there will never be a need. Now, go. Rejoin your friends and allow them to officially show you around your new accommodations.
Lucy! Ben! I'm coming! I've missed y'all so much!
All's well that ends well. Now, the closing act of the night is upon us. A few more stragglers still nearing. Perhaps there is time for a few more, before the sun may arise.